What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens Manga chapter review. Today, guys, we're going to be going over chapter 3 of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens Manga. I'm very excited to get into this. As always, I know I've been a little bit slacking with the mangas recently. I didn't do one for OCD Structures last week. I'm going to try to make that up because we've actually had some catching up to do with that one as well. And then this drops out of nowhere, so obviously, you know I'm rushing down to my set and getting ready to go and record this because I'm always here to cover Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens manga content for you guys, and I'm very excited to get into this chapter and to talk about this down in the description below, or in the comments. I don't know why I said description, but hey, you know what, I mess up once in a while. So without further ado, guys, let's not waste any more time and let's get right into it. So what were my thoughts on this chapter? I didn't honestly mind that chapter. I think this one was a pretty interesting one and a pretty weird one, but honestly, I think I pretty much enjoyed it. This is actually Roman's debut dueling chapter, which I'm going to just say this before we even get into it. I love how the fact that, they've been changing up the manga with Rook being the protagonist, or Luke being the protagonist, I should more say. I'm still not used to calling him Luke, but maybe we'll stop doing it today. Who knows? But with Luke being the protagonist, we've also seen some stuff. I mean, we saw Luke versus Yuga like normal, but in the last chapter we had Luke versus Gakuto, and now we're having Luke versus Roman. So there's already a difference, but you know what I think is absolutely funny about this is that some way, somehow, we still ended up with a similarity. In episode 3 of the anime, we had Roman versus Yuga, and now in chapter 3, we'll have Luke versus Roman. I love how it just took a 180 turn from being different to also having a similar thing in this chapter. I think that's absolutely hilarious. But the chapter starts off, it's out of nowhere. We just start, Roman's just sitting on the bench, not really doing anything. She's looking through her photos on her phone, and then she notices on one of the photos, which we see a photo of Gakuto, Yuga, and this mysterious man. And also, that picture is indicating that Yuga and Gakuto is dueling. So sometime they had dueled in this manga. Now, if this is the same duel, because with the Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens manga, and when I've talked about it with people, it's an interesting manga because the weird thing that it's not weird, the thing I've been hearing with this manga is it's supposed to be an adaptation of the anime, but just in Luke's perspective. But the thing is, it still follows the same story, is what I've been hearing. So, if this is the same story as the Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens one, but it's more Luke, it's weird, because I've heard that it's just Luke's version of the story, where it's, instead of Yuga, is Luke. I've heard it's just following the same manga. It's still going to be Yuga fighting against Roa, Neil, and, Asana, and then Rook finding his own villains. I've heard so much stuff about this, and it's just weird, but whatever the case might be, somehow, some way, Yuga and Gakuto duel in this manga. Whether it is the same duel from the anime, or is it just its own duel from the manga, who really knows? The Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens manga has just been weird for me, especially since hearing different medias and different perspectives that I've seen on this. And let me know what you guys think. Do you think this manga is just going to be a different story from the... Because another thing that kind of falls in that category, that it's in the same universe as the anime, is because of the decks being the same, but I don't know. Let me know what you guys' thoughts on that. Do you agree that it is in the canon of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime, or do you think it's its own separate story and it's going to be like the other Yu-Gi-Oh! Mangas that we had before, where it's just their own different story? But in this case, instead of like following a different Judai like in the GX manga, we actually follow Rook instead of we follow a different character. I'd like to know your guys' thoughts on that. But she sees this shadowy figure on here. Rook comes behind her and says, "Oh, that must be the curse Kagitaro." I believe that's how you pronounce that. I do apologize. And he kind of goes in this whole spew about how, like, basically when you see a shadow on your like on a picture or something like that, when you're looking at your phone, you get cursed. Which, I'm going to say, though, that feels like a story that Amayo Yoshiro would say during his duel, where he would talk about the creepy stories. I feel like that would be a moment with Rook, or Luke. Gosh dang it, I already messed it up. But so he tells her that she's basically cursed and that he's cursed, and the only way to solve this is with the rush duel, which is confusing on its own, because the thing is that he basically, there's two things that's happening. He either just made this story up, or this is an actual thing in this universe. But the thing that's weird about it is that how would that be the case? Because if this has actually been a thing for a while, that means that this series has to have had rush duels for a while to make it to the point of where, well, I mean, unless it was like a week ago is when this started happening, which I feel like a story like this, I feel like is either made up or it has to have been a story for a while that she might have never heard of. But I don't know, it's a very interesting thing to look at, but she, Luke tries to tell her, like, just to trust me, I know what I'm doing, and they end up getting into a rush duel, which, I'm just gonna say this, it's so weird looking at Luke in this manga, and I about did it again, gosh dang it, is that the fact that Luke looks more devilish. I don't know if that's just me, but he really looks more devilish in this. And I mean, you know, in the anime, he has his devil powers. I don't even know if he has it in here. I mean, he still has the watch. If you see a couple of panels, you see that he actually still has the watch. So I'm assuming if it is canon to the anime, but in Luke's perspective, then it should be that he still has the power, but who really knows. But they get into the rush duel, Yuga and Gakuto are there as well. It is another short rush duel. It's only 3 turns again, which at this point, I need to stop complaining about that. It's going to be short. I just have to learn to accept it. It's not going to be a 5 to 7 turn like we've been seeing, like with Yuga and Neil. Like, that was still my favorite one in the anime, and I want more lengthy duels like that because it gets more involved with the deck. It gets more involved with strategies, and just to see characters going back and forth with each other, I like that. But with rush duels and this being this short, or the way they've been portraying it as being this short, I feel like it's just harder to get invested into the duel because one moment you're watching it and the next thing it's done very quickly because of the massive summoning. Your turns go so fast, and with the actual amount of like turns that they have, it goes so quickly, and it's just like it's so weird and hard to watch and like get invested in the duel when it's just over in just a blink of an eye. So, I don't know, and maybe that's just me, and let me know what you guys think of rush duels. I mean, I've seen a couple of comments about rush duels, and I know you guys have started, or at least a couple of you guys have been starting to hate rush duels lately, or like, have kind of been going down on your scale of, in terms of enjoyment. So, definitely like to know all you guys' thoughts on rush duels. Do you like it, or do you think it's meh? I mean, I kind of like it, I kind of don't, or do you just despise rush duels? I would love to know that. But Rook starts his turn. I believe he just summons one monster, and he does, it's a very weird turn that he starts with, as he tribute summons a Dragon Knight of Darkness, but not once, but 3 times. But more so than that, he didn't like summon multiple monsters just to summon it. He tributes he distributed 1 copy to summon another one. Like, he had 3 copies of this in his hand, and he started tributing it again and again, and just ended off with the same monster again. He didn't have any benefit. Set 1 card down, and that was it. He didn't really do much on it, which, again, it was the first turn, but you think that's weird. It's like, why is he tribute summoning the same monster, which we'll get into in a second. And I actually think that's a pretty clever way of what he did in this duel, and that's another thing I want to kind of talk about rush duels. But we'll wait until we get into that. But we start seeing something happening in the Rook. He starts talking about where he is getting cursed and that he's like not being able to control himself. And Gakuto is very confused at what this means. Roman kind of explains the situation because obviously they weren't there, about how they're dueling to try to lift the curse. And then out of nowhere you see Yuga pulling this invention that apparently can detect if there's spirits around, which I'm just gonna say this, I feel like Yuga in this manga is going to be an equivalent of Pokemon X, Y, and Z's Clement. Now, if you have never watched the Pokemon X and Y series, or just Pokemon in general, and you don't know who this character is, basically the character loved to invent stuff. He was one of the gym leaders, which I'm pretty sure a lot of people know what a Pokemon gym leader is, but he was a gym leader and he loved to invent things. But the thing is like he would always pull out these inventions, but would always have them blow up some way, somehow, some way. But, and it feels like the same way with Yuga, because he's just pulling out these inventions. I think this is like the second invention that he's had in this manga. I think the first one, he had one that was like able to like, I don't know. It was something like a check mark and X. I can't really remember what that one was. It's been a minute since I've read the first chapter, but the fact that he just pulls his inventions, and it fits with Yuga, he's an inventor as well. So I feel like that's what he's just going to be in this manga, is that a couple of times during duels, he's just going to pull out one of his roads, which is his inventions, and it would be specific for this moment, which was also the thing that Clement did. And anyone that's watched the series definitely want to know about that as well. But she says that she's going to take this duel series, give it her all. Rook sets a face down card, and well, he goes into the whole tribute thing, like I mentioned earlier, and places a card face down to end his turn. Rowan goes into her turn and summons, and I specifically wrote these cards down. She summoned two Elikis and an Angela. Now, what I think is very interesting about this is we look back in the anime and we see that she used a deck that was not her. She used a like a copy deck of basically Yuga's, a little bit of like a just a throw-in deck basically, where it's just thrown in cards for the duel. But in this case, in this manga, she already has a deck. So and this is another thing as well. It's like where you can argue that it's part of the anime canon, or at least in that universe, because of the fact that she has these same monsters. So, who really knows? But she's able to get out, she's able to tribute summon into her rock and roller, and is able to get into her Prima Katara as well. Goes into battle, and she's able to activate her Prima Katara's effect to where she can, I believe she pays 1,000 life points to increase the monster stack by 300. I could be wrong, it might be discarding, but no, it is life point decretion. I know it's life point decretion, but I don't remember if it's 1,000 or not. But she uses the effect, is able to help her monsters gain attack points, uses her rock and roller to attack his dragon, and is able to do a direct attack from her Prima, which is able to put down Rook to a measly 1,100 attack points. She ends her turn there. She has no set cards. She didn't set any cards at all. You see her even panting in this, and I'm just going to say this. I really got worried here for a second. Now, if anyone has been on my channel for a while now and knows what I'm meaning, why I'm scared about this, we all know the thing that Roman does during the duels, where her shield would get the red eyes and then she would just go out of it. And I thought that's what she ended up doing in this. And maybe she did. It's kind of hard with the manga. I just feel like she didn't really do it. I really don't think. I feel like she just was in a serious mode. Like, they didn't have any indications. I feel like if they're going to have an indication, they probably would make her eyes a little bit darker. Like, maybe instead of like the white eyes, it'd probably make it gray or something like that. That way you can tell, like, oh, she's in that mode that she is in the anime. So, a posable question, and I am praying to God that this does not happen. I am really hoping that in this manga, she does not use the powers at all. I really would love Roman to not use that power. Now, will they probably put the power in there? I hate to say it, I think she will. And it sucks. And maybe it's just because of me. I don't like the power at all. I don't think it fits with her. I don't like the fact that people changing like their attitude and their way they duel just to win a duel. Because another thing that I've hated with Roman is that she wins the duels with this mode. So I'm worried because, spoiler alert, Luke wins the duel. Oh my gosh, I'm never going to get used to it. I'm so used to calling it Rook. But Luke beats her in this duel, similar to in the anime. And after that loss that she had, she started using this mode and started picking wins. Is it going to be the same thing in the manga? I hope it isn't. But that is just me, and let me know what you guys think of that as well. There's a lot of things to kind of talk about and kind of theorize about this manga, because, again, this manga is pretty interesting, to say the least. But Rook goes in his turn, and this is where I think Luke is pretty smart when it comes to this, because he ends up getting the +5, and he purposely did this, by the way. He purposely tributed those 3 monsters and set his card. That way he can get the full advantage with rush duels. Remember, in a rush duel, you draw until your hand becomes 5. So if you have 0 cards in your hand, you get to draw 5. And he has monsters that he can tribute summon. And with the massive summoning rule, that doesn't limit to you how many tribute summons you can make, as long as you can fit the requirements. So he purposely tribute summoned the same monsters, even though there was no benefit for it. But it actually gains a benefit, because now he gets to draw more cards, as if he would have just kept the 2 copies in his hand, he would have had to draw 3 cards. and that would have put him in a good situation. So Luke is now able to go on a frontal assault. He gets 2 more monsters on the field, activates Dragonic Prey, which is able to change his dragons to defense position and summon a dragon from his graveyard. And then he just goes on a whole bunch of plays. He tribute summons into Gravity Press Dragon and gets out of Dragears as well, and is able to go on an assault. He uses Gravity's Pressure Dragon's effect, which lowers a monster's attack points by 700, and then obviously we all know Dragears' effect, so he uses those monsters. He uses Gravity to destroy, I think it was the rock, it was definitely the other tribute monster. I think it was like Rock and Roll or something like that, and then obviously uses Dragears, beats Prima, and then goes for the direct attack, beats Roman, and then you get the scene where she is about to thank Luke for all this, I'm assuming because it would have lifted the curse. And Yugioh's like, well, no, wait, we have to see if the curse is lifted. And they actually grab their phone to look at the pictures because apparently they also know this as well. That's why I think it's also been established in this universe. They look at the phone and they see another shot of Yugioh and Gakuto, but you clearly see that there's Luke on the screen. And we end up finding out that he's the cursed Kagetaro. Excuse me, it's weird to say that. I'm not used to saying that. So he's the cursed Katago, and Roman punches him at the end, which I think is absolutely hilarious. I love the fact that Sal ended the manga. I think it was, or ended the manga. Holy crap, that would be a very rushed manga to say the least. Couldn't you imagine that the manga gets canceled and that's how it ends with Roman punching Rook? I feel like that would just be perfect. But that's how they ended it off. Very interesting, to say the least. Another thing that was very interesting is that I think this is the first time any of the group members looked at her phone. Remember, she was very secretive with her phone in the anime, and obviously that was because she was sending things to Roa, and even though they did find it out, they never looked through their phone. So, very interesting. And that also, like, comes to the question, like, is Roa gonna be this main threat that we seen in the anime? Remember, she was sending these pictures to Roa, but it doesn't seem like she's doing that in this manga. I feel like she's just keeping this, like we've seen in the endings, where she just keeps these pictures as like memories of what she's gone through with Yugioh, Luke, and Gakuto. So I feel like that's basically what her whole thing is, and that just poses the question of like, is Roa, and that also poses the question as well, now kind of thinking about it, not only is Roa gonna be a main like threat or something like that, like it was in the anime, is Roa gonna even exist? Like that's a question I honestly do not know. I've heard people saying like Roa's ace monster was like shown in the anime or in the manga, which I have not seen at all. I don't know where people are getting that unless it's like in a future chapter. But I have not seen any signs of Roa being in this anime or manga, from my perspective. But obviously I love Roa and I want to see him in this manga, but who really knows? Maybe they'll, instead of Roa being in this manga, they might give a manga exclusive. Like we've seen that in many other these manga adaptations where they'll have manga exclusives. So maybe that'd be the case. Or maybe Roa will be in this, and who knows? Maybe Roa, instead of being cousins, because that's what they were in the anime, maybe they're brother and sister. Who really knows? Or whatever the case might be. That would be very interesting to know as well. I just really hoping that they change them up a little bit more, and I feel like there is good potential to have them be a little bit different. I mean, I explained it earlier with Luke. I feel like he's a little bit more like sinister in this manga than the goofy self that we see him in the anime. But yeah, there's some goofy parts. I mean, he kind of thought about it, was like, what was that thing that they saw on the phone? And so like he's oblivious to this kind of stuff as well. So obviously he's the same old dumb Luke that we always know, but I feel like he's more devilish than anything, like more sinister than in the anime, but that might be just me. Let me know you guys' thoughts on that as well. Again, there's a lot of things to talk about this, because now the door for possibilities can now come out, because now that we have dueled the main group, who is the next opponent? Who is Rook or Luke, whatever you want to call him? At this point, I just don't care anymore. Like I've tried so many times to call him Luke in this video, but I could not do it. I'm sorry, guys. But anyway, who's just going to be the next opponent? That's like the very good question. If we're going off of the anime standards, Bakuro would be the next one he duels. So is that going to be the case now, where we're just going to like go through the characters? Who knows? Maybe it won't be Bakuro. Maybe Yuga and Bakuro would duel. Maybe they just switch the places of who duels. So like every Luke duel will be what Yuga dueled in the anime, and whatever Luke duel was in the anime, Yuga's going to take part of. Which, if they do that, I would be kind of upset. I feel like that's just kind of, I want to see some new characters. I want to see some manga exclusive characters in here. I want to see something different that we haven't already seen. Like, to be honest, Bakuro and Khan aren't really that important, so maybe you get some manga exclusive characters that are important. Who really knows? But I hope that they just do something different and not just be the case where they switch Luke and Yuga's duels around. Or I should more say the opponents, not the actual duels around. But who knows? We would have to wait and see. And let me know what if you guys agree with that as well. I know I've asked a lot of questions in this video. How about this? Just let me know what you guys think of the episode. I know I'm asking a lot of questions in this, but like, we're also like 3 chapters into this manga, so obviously having a lot of questions is not that bad, especially since now that we're finished with the main group dueling, who's next? Like, that's the big question. The anime says it's going to be Bakuro, but who knows? Maybe we're going to get introduced to Khan early. Maybe we're going to get introduced to Yoshio early. Maybe Mimi. Maybe Mr. Goha. I don't know. Or Drone Goha. Whatever that thing is in the anime. Who knows? Maybe he's an actual human in this manga. Who really knows? And that's what excites me about the manga series as well. But also worries me about this manga because I don't think they're going to do it. But normally with the manga series, I'm excited because it feels like it's just a new story. It's a new perspective to look at. You know, we're used to what we've seen in the anime, but to see it in a different version, in a different way, a different story, always excites me. And that's what I want this manga to be. It keeps my excitement up, but if it's just the same stuff that the anime does, I feel like, okay, it's just the same duels and the same, like, structure, but it's just Luke as the protagonist. And even though I think that's a cool way to look at it, and I will still read it because I just want to see the way that it turns out, but I feel like you could do more than that. And maybe I'm expecting a little bit much of it, or like asking for a little bit too much, but I don't know. That's just something, I just want to see something different. That way I just feel like I'm not reading the same thing as watching the same thing, but just a different character. I want a little bit more. But we would have to wait and see. But guys, that is going to be it for this chapter review. Hope you guys enjoyed a little bit of a different way that I did this manga. I definitely talked a lot more of potential stuff that can be in this, and I want to know what you guys want to see from this manga as well. Like, now that we've finally have gotten like the main 4 duels out of the way, what do you guys want to see? What is the next duel that you want to see in this manga? How do you want them to take this story? How do you want the characters to be written? Do you agree with me and Roman that she shouldn't use the mode and just duel normally, and maybe just duel more seriously in the manga, or in the manga, where in the anime she uses that mode and duels? Let me know what your thoughts on that. Maybe Gakuto does a different style. Who really knows? Or maybe Yuga uses more like convention cards. I don't really know. It's very weird. Like, let me know what you guys want this story to be. Do you want it to be the same as the anime, or do you want something different? Do you want to see manga exclusive characters? I know I'm asking a lot again, but again, there's so many potentials with the Yugioh Sevens manga, and I'm very worried that they might just stick to it closer to the anime, which seems like they're doing that already, and I'm just hoping that I am wrong about that, and they decide, you know what, maybe let's change it up a little bit to get you guys something different. That way it's just not the same thing. Who really knows? But that's just my thoughts on it. I'd like to know your guys' thoughts on that as well. And just the chapter overall. Did you like the chapter? Did you think it was meh? Or did you not really like it? Can't wait to see you guys' thoughts on this chapter down below. But guys, that is going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, guys, take care and have yourselves a great rest of your day.